Rain of Troy Hotline.
Alicia, Michael, what's going on?
We know you have takes. We have takes.
I'm actually surprised that your rant line, rave line, whatever, isn't completely full.
Why can't we just win a game?
Can I blame Michael Castillo for this?
Can I blame Bob Connolly for this?
Could I put on a zebra shirt and just go out there? Scratch, claw, up against the wall.
Can't explain it, what I'm feeling right now, guys.
I can't believe it.
Let's open up that race line! Woohoo!
Oh, I can't believe USC is undefeated in the SEC. Wait, we're in the Big Ten. What's our record? Oh, no!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant Line Radio, episode 592, coming to you on Wednesday, March 12th. We're going to talk about the latest in USC football, including a ton of more commitments in the 2026 class. We're going to look ahead to spring camp a little bit, talk about some spring camp superlatives. Who has the most to lose? Who has the most to gain? Who are we looking forward to seeing, even though we won't be seeing them? You know what I mean. All those things here on this episode. As always, follow us on social media at Rant of Troy. Email us, rantoftroy@fansite.com, and our phone number, 818-623-7...
You got me all mixed up.
I got the number wrong. 818-643... 7227 Second Woods Bruin Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joined along with my co-host here in the Rant Line studio in Los Angeles, Alicia Dertola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Another week of you sitting next to our special guest, Badger. We'll see if he wants to, of course, shoehorn his way into the episode. Hopefully not.
Badger is a smart cookie. I'm going to give him that. That's definitely going to get us into trouble in future.
Sure.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he picked up potty training very, very well, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of him for that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm very proud of him for is he's picked up that when he goes into the box next to me and we sit with our microphones, he just goes to sleep. Like, he just curls up and goes to sleep. It's nap time for him. So, I think he gets it.
That's good. Very good. Jessie, of course, gets it, and she's just over here annoyed that she hasn't gone OUT yet. But we'll talk more about that later. All right. I'm already in the chat. Hello to Badger and Jessie. Yes. Yes. Big shout out to everybody in the chats. Kenny, Tim, Zager, Ron Murdy. It is a Wednesday, and we're back at our normal time, even though a couple minutes late. But we're rocking and rolling. Alicia, a lot of stuff to get to. Let's get to the news, shall we? All right, I think we got to start with a huge recruiting week. Huge. SC got 3 different commitments: 4-star wide receiver Trent Mosley, 4-star offensive lineman Asuntafa, 3-star offensive lineman John Fafita. The Trojans also sort of predicted to get 2 more. We'll get to those in a minute here, but when you look at Mosley, Tafa, and Fafita, your thoughts?
These are more big names for USC to grab, particularly obviously Trent Mosley is one of the best wide receivers in the class. He's a local guy. I think Trent Mosley to me is the quintessential local receiver that USC should always be getting. USC should never be letting a Trent Mosley walk away. So getting him is like, okay, check in a box. Yes, that's what you should be doing. Asuntafa, to me, this is the real prize. 6'4", 305, a big, stout offensive lineman from Utah. We've talked a lot about how it can be a little bit tricky for USC in Southern California with the offensive line talent available to them. But the fact is that I think that USC can make up for a lot of the offensive line, the dearth of offensive line talent available in the recruiting pool in California by just reaching out a little tentacle out into Utah or into Arizona or into Washington and Oregon or into Hawaii. Those nearby states that should be feeder states for USC. And when it comes to Utah, I think it can absolutely be a feeder state for USC with offensive linemen and defensive linemen. And that is essentially what this is. This is the kind of offensive lineman that USC should be picking up from the state of Utah. Number 5 player in the state. This should be somebody that USC is always pursuing and always getting a commitment for. And then you have Fafita, who is I think the more common profile of offensive lineman from California that USC brings in, which is physically just tons of potential. 6'6", 350. Dude is a behemoth. And you take a little bit more of it. He's a little less refined, needs a little bit more work. But for a kid coming out of St. Francis at that size that you can mold into a, coach up and turn into a really good player, you take that 3-star offensive lineman because they're 6'6", 350, So these additions are exactly what USC should be doing. USC is riding a wave of commitments, and we talked previously about how, Sagar in the chat is talking about how he's not sold on any of this, and I totally get that. I think that we have maybe not said that we're not sold on it, but we have sort of preached some caution that, this time last year, USC was having a really big recruiting period as well, and then things fell apart. But again, I will point out that I see a couple of major differences between this recruiting surge and previous recruiting surges is that the guys that USC is locking in right now are, like I said, the guys that USC geographically should be latching onto this early in a class, because these are the guys that you can get committed in March, and then you don't have to worry as much when you get to November and December about whether or not they're going to stick around and sign. These are the guys that you want to be adding in. These aren't big home run swings that you're going to have to be like, crossing your fingers and holding your breath and hoping that the bagmen in Georgia are able to sort of turn their heads. Obviously, USC still needs to be on top of these guys and keep them happy, keep them feeling special, keep them motivated to come to USC. It just is a lot easier when they're in Santa Margarita or in Mountain View. So that is a big difference. And then the other thing is obviously structurally. The structure that USC has in place right now, they simply just have a shit ton more recruiters to stay on top of these guys to make sure that they don't have their heads turned. And NIL continues to, USC continues to throw its weight around on the NIL front. And the thing about that is that the more USC throws its weight around on the NIL front and lands these commitments from guys that they should be landing and starts building up this recruiting momentum, the more that House of Victory gets to go up on Twitter and show screenshots of people giving $100,000 donations, $30,000 donations. Like, the more of these guys that you bring in, the more excited people are to open up their wallets and give you more money, which is what helps you retain these kinds of players as you go through the recruiting cycle. Now, USC might not keep all of these guys, but right now, what USC is doing, the foundation of this class, as far as what a March should look like for USC recruiting, this is what it should really look like. And I think that the big difference here is that it hasn't necessarily looked like that in terms of the local additions or just the overall manpower that USC has at its disposal with these guys now.
Yeah, and SC's putting together a hell of a class, number 1 in the country, got a million different commitments. You talked about the local tie-in with these guys, Santa Margarita for Trent Mosley, Fafita from up north from Mountain View, but they're all on the West Coast, or on the West, what we would call the West, Draper, Utah, for Tafa. It's going to be interesting to see how it keeps going moving forward, because SC's still going to be in the mix for, out-of-state recruits. Tafa, prime example. And then you look at the guys that SC is sort of tied to, the crystal balls and all that kind of stuff. There's Dylan Berryman from Monroe, Louisiana, 4-star defensive tackle, and then 4-star running back, Deshaun Rideau from Oaks Christian, which, by the way, very disappointed to know that SC's in the running for someone named Rideau. No relation to Daryl.
Nope. I had the same thought.
Like,
how common must the Rideau surname be?
Also,
to not be related to each other.
We have on our rundown Rideau and Berryman as the targets for SC currently. One of them is from Louisiana, and it's not the Rideau. What's going on?
Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah. Either way, Berryman's got connections to Jakeem Stewart, so we'll see how that goes. Your thoughts on the overall class outlook? Number one, overall 14 commitments, 9 from California. I get the sense that we talked about it before. You just went on your whole little soliloquy. The positivity moving forward. What is a realistic expectation for the class in the sense of, like, are you comfortable with saying that you think that this would be that's fair enough? If there's, if there's some sort of place where you could put your thoughts into what SC would finish in for, entertainment purposes only, of course. Top 10. You're making that move? I feel like it would be safe, right?
At this stage,
It'd be safe?
At this stage, anything less than top 10
is a disappointment.
Is a disappointment.
Yeah.
The way that USC is talking, the way that USC is acting, the way that USC is throwing its weight around, I would argue that anything outside the top 5 becomes what happened to your class. You have to also understand that recruiting is multidimensional, and USC can have all of these guys committed and bring in a really, really good class that is completely loaded. But, if Tennessee goes out and gets, 3 of the top 5 players in the country, that's going to weigh their class, or Clemson or any of these other, Georgia's always in the mix. Texas A&M is always in the mix. So Ohio State and the like, you never know exactly what they're going to do in terms of who's in their recruiting spheres and what guys that they add in. Mm-hmm. But the way that USC is talking and the way that USC is throwing its weight around, USC expects to have a top 5 class, especially because Chad Bowden says he intends for this class to be the biggest in USC history. So just the fact that USC might be bringing in 30 dudes could weigh this class in terms of into being a number 1 class, just because the more recruits that you have, the more commits that you have, the higher your rating will be. So, USC's recruiting staff is talking this way, and the players. I mean, Jakeem Stewart last December tweeted after he committed to USC, he said, the 2026 class that I'm putting together will go down in USC history. If you're not ready to put in the work and grind, don't come out west. I know who the real ballers are. These rankings don't fool me. I know who's who. And then on Tuesday, I think sort of around the time that Berryman, that the prediction came in for Berryman, the defensive lineman from Louisiana, which is obviously Jakeem Stewart's neck of the woods, he quote tweeted that previous tweet and said, "I bet no one is laughing anymore. Just wait until all the dogs from down south I have coming start announcing commitments. FTFO, I am inevitable." So Jakeem Stewart is talking that way. Like, you can't talk this talk in March and then be content with even a number 7 recruiting class. Like, this is top 5 sort of bluster.
Yeah, Ken in the chat says, if they somehow retain a top 5 class, would you accept another 7-win year this year? I would say that these things... I hate to be that guy. What does a 7-win season look like? But no, realistically,
I would even push back there.
No. Also, I think that you can. I think that in a lot of ways, given the foundation that SC has put together on the recruiting side of things, the personnel side in general, I feel like on-field and off-field performance is almost separate at this point, in the sense of, like, if they get a number 5 class, I don't think that buoys up the vibes for Lincoln Riley to not get the heat. You know what I mean? Like, I think his him needing to perform and needing to go out and win, 9-10 games this upcoming season is, completely independent of whatever the recruiting stuff is.
Well, yeah, I would agree. I think that the whole point of last season was, if you look at last season and your USC perspective and you're trying to put a positive spin on it, it's that look at how close USC is. Right. Chad Bowden comes in and says, look at how close USC is. Lincoln Riley and his staff, whether they say it literally or sort of signal it, everybody says, look at how close we are. You can't, a 7-win season in 2025 negates the 2024 sort of look at how close we were, because obviously you weren't that close then. Mm-hmm. Right. So no, I think that USC should be significantly better than 7-5. Just look at the schedule. If USC plays as well as it did in 2024 while also finishing off the fourth quarter, in all of these games, USC should be looking at 9 wins at a minimum. Yeah. Just because, Missouri State, Georgia Southern, Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois.
It's a much simpler schedule.
Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, and UCLA are games that I do not think that USC, looking at it now, comes in and thinks that they should be losing. You can have the conversation certainly about Michigan and Notre Dame and Oregon. Those are really, really tough games, and I think that coming in and saying anything less than 12 wins is that's not just not the way it works. But right. Certainly 9 wins. Certainly 9 wins has to be on the table. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you that this recruiting class is besides the point, especially because it's being semi-built. I mean, built by a GM who we can assume is not connected arm in arm. I mean, is not handcuffed to this head coach. Mm-hmm. So if USC goes 7-6 or God forbid worse, then this recruiting class, it's almost as good of a time. This era of college football is as good of a time to fire your head coach while not sacrificing your recruiting class, because you can fire your head coach and have all of your recruiting infrastructure remain exactly as it is. And the recruits that you were talking to are talking to the exact same people, at least a bunch of them. So,
which is a completely different landscape of college football than we've seen in the past. Yeah. It'd be interesting that I do wonder, does the lessened role, not that it's a lessened role, but does the influence of the personnel positions, does that make coaches more expendable? Do we get, I'm going to guess not completely. When I say more expendable, I mean will there be more movement of guys who are 8-4 and might be disappointing, but they're still going to be retained normally?
The Mark Ricks of the world?
Yeah, are they more likely to go by the wayside and get fired and whatnot? I don't think it ever gets to the point where it is in soccer, for instance.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It'll be interesting if that stuff changes. Of course, we know it's college football. Every coach has to have a 5-year contract. It's by law. It's in the football commandments. We'll see if that continues going forward. All right, but before we get to talking about spring camp, want to run through what do you call it? Pro Day. Pro Day went down on Wednesday. Alicia, there is 3 laws in the world. 4: death, taxes, the line at the McDonald's in Sherman Oaks taking forever, and of course, rain on Pro Day at USC.
I want to credit Gia Lares, the assistant director of sport brands and communications for USC, because I think she tweeted. I think she said it best. It rains 10 days a year in LA, and somehow one of those days is always on USC Pro Day. Mm-hmm. Because this is something I was literally thinking this morning while I was taking the dogs to run around my parents' backyard, and it was raining, and I was looking at my phone and seeing the pro day stuff coming out, and I was like, why does it always rain on pro day? Like, what is up with that? I don't understand it. It's literally every year. And I know that pro day is always in the middle of March, and March tends to be more of a rainy season. But, like, we've been in the middle of droughts for a significant amount of time that I've been covering the team. Like, how did it always rain on pro day?
Yeah, I think they need to start putting pro day in the middle of July. Just go all in.
Honestly, this is the best thing about not being a beat writer anymore who covers these things directly. Not having to be out there while it's raining on pro day. Is,
wearing a poncho.
Yeah, lovely.
I don't think there's much to take away from this. Just looking at the numbers, Kyle Ford ran a 4.7. Not great.
Not great
for a wide receiver.
Achille Arnold.
I don't know how much you can take from that.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, it's raining. It's hard to say, but like I think Achille Arnold and Woody Marks had pretty decent.
Woody Marks 4.5.
Yeah, I think
that's fine for running back.
Yeah.
4.5 is like par. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these times,
it's just a checkbox.
You don't have to like set the world on fire. You just sort of want to be within the window of metrics that scouts want you to be. And I think for running back, 4.5 is acceptable. So yeah, this pro class is certainly going to be interesting as anyone, but for whatever reason, I'm just like I don't find very much intrigue in this one. Maybe because I don't know that there's like, is there anybody that we're looking at and thinking like they're going to be a first? Like, can they be a first round pick? Can they be a first rounder? Like, I don't know that anyone was there. So
yeah. No, I agree. Let's go to talking about the main topic we wanted to get to today, which of course is spring superlatives. We're just going to run through these semi-quickly, just off the cuff here. Alicia, what is the most compelling position battle this spring for the Trojans going into the 2025 season, but most importantly, the 2025 spring camp?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of options here. The most visible one is quarterback. I wouldn't put that as my most compelling position battle because, quite frankly, I do not think there's a battle there. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. So for me, the one that I find to be most intriguing, the one that I'm going to be looking at most closely, might feel a little bit under the radar, but for me, it's the running backs. That room is full of guys, and I'm not quite sure exactly how they're going to how it's going to shake out. You know, USC brings in Eli Sanders, who I think is obviously your Woody Marks, Travis Dye, Keontae Ingram style kind of guy who comes in to be the number one. Mm-hmm. And I think he probably will be the number one. And the way that USC has done their rotations under this staff has been to generally ride their number one and supplement. But, you know, Wayman Jordan from the JUCO ranks is an absolute freaking stud. And I don't want to write him off as not being a major factor for USC this year, just based on what he was able to accomplish, what he brings to the table. So I'm looking at Wayman Jordan, I'm looking at Brian Jackson, I'm looking at Marion Peterson, and then the freshmen Riley Wormley and Harry Dalton. I just see a lot of potential there, and I'm not sure how it's going to shake out. So for me, like, I want to know who is challenging Eli Sanders, who is number two, or could one of these guys actually, supersede Eli Sanders and be the guy? Does one of these guys force USC into a two-headed backfield? There's a lot of intrigue because there's a lot of potential ability, proven and otherwise, with the group that USC has. Yeah,
100%. We got a comment in the chat. Is Alicia in witness protection? Okay, inside baseball here. Alicia uses my phone for her camera. I just got a call on my phone. And I don't know why it hasn't gone back. And
Am I gone?
You're just blurred. You're blurred out. Which reminds me.
Hold on. Okay, hold on.
Here. I'll. Oh, there we go. There you go.
Are you good?
We're good.
Okay.
Little random thought here. You get those things where there'll be a TikTok that's like, what did you not understand as a child? That or what lie were you told as a child that you that you believed until like relatively recently?
Uh-huh.
You know what one for me was? When my aunt told me when we were watching Cops when I was a kid, that the reason that people's faces were blurred out was because they put shaving cream on their face and the camera can't see the shaving cream.
What?
Yeah.
And you believed that?
I believed that until like high school. Probably.
That is not what I was expecting you to say.
Just say it. So why did you put shaving cream all over your face?
I mean,
anyways,
can't help myself.
Yeah, I think the running backs are going to be interesting. Raymond Jordan, Brian Jackson, guys that I definitely think will want to challenge Eli Sanders. Eli Sanders, I thought was very good last year as a Lobo at New Mexico. Before that, he was at Iowa State, even though he wasn't necessarily getting starting reps there. But Riley Wormley, I think, is someone who could have a say in how the season goes on. Harry Dalton, the other incoming true freshman. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. The linebackers, of course, I think the other spot where everyone raves about Desmond Stevens. We were putting together players most to gain, most to lose, which we're going to get to in a second here. You wrote somebody else for most to gain, but you said Desmond Stevens at one point when we were putting together the rundown. I would say that he doesn't have the most to gain because this is a position at linebacker where I feel like Desmond Stevens just is the guy. Like you hear them talk, you hear the coaching staff talk about Desmond Stevens. Rob Ryan, loves the dude, right?
Yeah.
And mind you, it's an introductory press conference. He's obviously not going to say, who he doesn't like or whatever. But it was unprompted for how the praise that he bestowed upon Desmond Stevens. And when SC's got to replace Easton Mascarenas Arnold at linebacker, they've got to replace Mason Cobb, two guys who. Cobb was pretty damn good last year, especially coming off of a season in which he disappointed a lot of people in 2023, right? Desmond Stevens showed flashes, had a big interception during the season. I think could be that guy that steps in as a true sophomore this season and sort of is that dude. This is the spring for him to sort of cement himself. And it's the other linebackers who I think are going to sort of be duking it out when you talk about Elijah Newby, Garrison Madden, Togai, all those guys.
Yeah, well, and that's why linebacker, I think, is of all the positions, I would have liked USC to bring in a transfer. They didn't at linebacker.
Yeah, which is more reason that I think that Desmond Stevens, I think you can just ink him in as a starter.
Oh, yeah, I think that you can, for sure. But the way I see it is that I think that Elijah Newby has the most to gain because there's a new linebackers coach. This is a really thin unit. He has an opportunity to either bypass Desmond Stevens for that starting job next to Eric Gentry or position himself as the replacement for Eric Gentry when inevitably he misses time with injury. Right. So, I think that a big enough spring from a guy like Elijah Newby, along with, other guys, Jaden Walker, Madden, and Tagovailoa, these guys are competing to prove to Rob Ryan and the rest of USC staff that they don't need to go out and get a starter linebacker in the transfer portal. Right. And so to me, it's up to Elijah Newby to prove that hey, I am your plan B at linebacker because you need to have one. I think the thing that makes us uncomfortable about the linebacker group is, if Eric Gentry had a perfectly healthy record, like if he was available all the time, I would feel a lot less anxiety about going into this season with Eric Gentry and Desmond Stevens as my presumptive starters at linebackers, and then you have these younger guys who will fight for who the backup is. Mm-hmm. It's truly because I cannot trust that Eric Gentry will be available for the whole season. So I know that Desmond Stevens is likely to be a starter. The rest, there's got to be somebody else on this roster that can be a starter.
Right.
Or USC has to go out and get somebody who can be a starter. So to me, that's the opportunity for Elijah Newby.
Yeah, we mentioned Matai Tagoai, and he's not going to be there in the spring, by the way. He's going to be one of the fall enrollees, along with Corey Sims, Kendarius Reddick, Gus Cordova, Romeo Eisen, and Tanook Hines. Those are the guys I think you can look forward to in the fall. Everybody else sort of coming up in the spring. Which,
by the way, means, Tanook Hines and Romero Eisen not being there creates a really big opportunity for Xavier Jordan this spring.
At receiver, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that people really like Tanook Hines, and Romero Eisen has a big opportunity here. But Xavier Jordan gets the first crack at that open starting job. I presume that Prince Strawn will take it, but it's not a certain thing, and Xavier Jordan could be in the running for that if he puts in a good enough spring.
Yeah, I think he could be in the mix there for the most to gain. Let's talk about the most to lose. I think we both had the same answer here when we were talking about it before we were recording. It's Anthony Lucas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he got injured last year. Braylon Shelby is someone who got a lot of playing time, both as a freshman and as a sophomore. He's going to be looking for one of those edge spots. SC, has new guys on the defensive line. Where you look at Jamal Jarrett and Keyshawn Silver. Does that mean that there's some movement around for who gets moved to the edge? Maybe. I don't know. We're going to see. But either way, Anthony Lucas coming off of an injury. Do we know his injury status going into spring more than anything? And then on top of that, this is kind of a big spring for him to, cement himself back in there before he gets sort of Wally pipped.
Yeah, and you're right. I don't know that I've heard anything specific about if he's going to be full go for spring. But the fact is that USC brought back Braylon Shelby, and USC has Cam Fountain, and I think we know that USC's coaches and a lot of fans think very highly of those two. And, you have to sort of factor in where the pass rushers are going to be. I'm very curious. I think Jakeem Stewart's future is sort of in a more interior line position, but is that where they start him? Do they put him on the edge? I question, what do they do with Devin Tompkins? How much do they mess around with where he is playing? I know that he's put on a lot of weight to sort of play inside, but he sort of started out further out on the edge. So there's a lot of uncertainty, I think. Not bad uncertainty, because I think if you told me that Cam Fountain and Braylon Shelby were your starting edges going into the season, I wouldn't be panicking. But right. If I'm Anthony Lucas, I'm panicking about that for sure, because you want to be the guy on that edge. And if you're not able to compete in spring, then you're just creating opportunities for Cam Fountain and Braylon Shelby to both prove that they're ready to be full-time guys. And if you are slowed during spring, then again, you create opportunities for these other players to come through and show that, they deserve to be the ones starting over you. So there's a ton to lose for Anthony Lucas. And it sucks because so much of it is injury driven. But even before the injury, I think that you and I both agreed that Anthony Lucas was doing a very good job in run support, holding the edge, and doing the sort of the dog work that you need to be doing as one of those edge positions. But right. He and pretty much everyone else on that line were not generating the kind of pressure that you need from your ends. Mm-hmm. And, at a certain point, if Braylon Shelby and Cameron Fountain prove that they can do that work of being disciplined on the edge and holding the edge and doing the job in run defense, while also generating a lot of pressure, then you make Anthony Lucas an afterthought.
100%. And, Anthony Lucas was not productive at all in the 7 games that he had last year. But it was interesting because I thought he played...
He didn't play poorly.
Okay, he didn't play poorly. He wasn't productive. And I think you can be an unproductive but successful defensive lineman, but not off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
You can be that if you're a nose tackle, if you're, getting bodies to, collecting the blockers and all that kind of stuff, and clogging up run lanes and all that stuff. But from the edge, you want someone who's productive. And it's not just Lucas. Jamal Muhammad didn't do anything on the productive standpoint either last year, nor did Fountain or any of the guys, Shelby, who were able to, be on the edge with regularity. Lucas played 7 games last year, 0 tackles for loss. So it's one of those things of like, if you replace the guy who had 0 tackles for loss at the edge, not the end of the world because you'd want more production there. Mm-hmm. But he's someone who was extremely talented coming out of high school, coming into SC after transferring from Texas A&M. So I think there's still a lot of hopes and dreams for what he can put together defensively. Let's get to the most needing to improve. Maybe you can say that this is similar to gain and lose. I think it's slightly different here because the most needing to improve, I think it's simple. It's Jaden Mayava. Like, how is it not Jaden Mayava?
It's got to be Jaden Mayava because everybody else who would have needed to improve is no longer on the roster.
Yes.
There are some question marks, about Elijah Page and Alani Noah and Tobias Raymond and what they're going to be able to do on the offensive line. But frankly, I think we're pretty comfortable with that group. Jaden Mayava needs to...
Relatively more comfortable than with Mayava. Yeah, like Mayava is someone who, we talked about it in the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl, put together about 3/4 of perhaps the most heinous quarterback performance we've ever seen at USC. Like, to be absolutely blunt and quite honest.
I kind of want to rewatch that game just to double check and make sure that it was truly as bad as it felt like it was in
also,
the
his worst interception is also in the 4th quarter.
I know, right?
So
yeah.
It's very difficult because, part of this I do feel for Lincoln Riley in the sense that the transfer class was not as loaded as it was last year. So there wasn't a Will Howard or a Cam Ward to go out and get. At the same time, Lincoln Riley has always had really good quarterbacks. The quarterback play that SC had last year was the worst he's ever had, going back to his East Carolina days. And if I looked up those numbers, I'm guessing that they might have had more production and reliability than Miller Moss and Jaden Mayava had last year. But you got to be better. You got to improve, especially when Hassan Longstreet comes in to this roster with the expectations that he's probably not a day one incoming true freshman starter. So Mayava's got to sort of push himself here. If it's not truly a competition, if Sam Heward and Hassan Longstreet are not truly competing for the starting job and it's all Jaden Mayava, he's still got to perform as if it is a competition that he could very potentially lose, so that way he can continue to get better, because he's got to be better. He's got to be better than he was for all of last season, but especially in the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl.
Let's be honest, the competition that he could lose is the same one that I was sort of discussing with the linebackers. How desperate is USC coming out of spring for a quarterback? Because, there will be, it will absolutely not be ideal to be in a position where you need to find a starting quarterback out of the spring portal, out of the summer portal, as it were. because the guys that are going to be in there are guys that lost quarterback battles somewhere else. So you're already starting at a negative. But if Mailbag is not showing improvement and Longstreet looks like the freshman that we expect to, need that redshirt year, and Heward is what Heward has been for the entirety of his college career, then you may, as Lincoln Riley, you may need to hit the panic button and go get somebody else.
Right.
If Mailbag isn't improved. To Mailbag's credit, I mean, I don't think we bring this up enough. Like, his record as a starter is very good. So, from where I'm sitting...
So was Craig Krenzel's. Just saying.
From where I'm sitting, I think the foundations that you have to work with Mailbag, in terms of being like a gamer, coming through in the end when you need him, all of those kinds of things, like, we have seen him do those things. And so knowing that he has that in his locker makes me really hope that he can put together some of the more mundane quarterbacking stuff that is very, very important for the first 3 quarters of a game, and avoid being like the Tim Tebow NFL sort of mold of just being completely unplayable until, he starts to thrive because he just goes into, backyard football desperation mode. Right. You can't play backyard football desperation mode all the time. It will come back to bite you in the butt. So he needs to be able to fall back on a better foundation of like quarterbacking. And who better to set that up for him than Lincoln Riley? Certainly. I think it's entirely possible, in fact, probable, that Jaden Mailbag comes out of this offseason considerably more stable than he was, than what we saw from him last season. But it is also absolutely essential for USC. Talking about like the 7-win things. Is 7 wins enough? Like, USC ends up with 7 wins this coming season if Mailbag isn't the guy. That's just the facts. Like, if there's no improvement from Mailbag, then that's the thing that explains why USC is fighting for bowl eligibility again instead of fighting for bigger and better things. So this spring is massive for him and for the team because he needs to get on the same page as the receivers. He needs to be a leader. He needs to start commanding that kind of have that kind of presence. He needs to understand Riley's system perfectly. He needs to do everything that the coach tells him to do. All of those things to really establish himself as okay. It's okay. USC can move forward with this guy.
It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see how he is in the spring. Of course, we won't see how he is in the spring.
We won't see, but we will know if USC if chatter starts to emerge that USC is looking at quarterbacks, then that'll tell us what happened.
Yeah, for sure. Because remember, not my name, quarterback. You get that reference?
No.
Oh, all right. Anyways, let's go to most exciting early enrollee. I think it's one of the 2 guys who got a 5-star rating from somewhere. Jakeem Stewart or Hassan Longstreet. Pick a coin. Flip a coin. Pick a dude. Who you got?
Jakeem Stewart. I'm on the record, and I don't want this to come off as like I'm not a fan of Hassan Longstreet because I am. I do not think that he is one of those ready-made, come right in and be a true freshman starter kind of quarterbacks. And that's perfectly fine. The vast majority of quarterbacks coming out of high school are not that guy. And frankly, most teams don't want to have, like, to be in the position to have to start that guy. Right. Even Caleb Williams, like, Lincoln Riley did not want to start that guy until he was sort of presented with the opportunity. So for me, it's Jakeem Stewart. Jakeem Stewart is, his nickname is Thanos. He's massive, he's powerful, he's explosive.
Isn't that the company of that like the Silicon Valley lady?
What, massive?
No, Thanos.
Thanos? Oh, Theranos, yes. Yeah.
Close enough.
Awkward. Definitely want him to be Thanos and not Theranos, because if he's Theranos, then Well, so much for that.
Sure.
So yeah, I think my question is he the guy that can step right in and be your day one starter on a defensive line?
Yeah.
Physically, he looks developed enough. Technique is always the bigger question. USC has had a lot of 5-star defensive linemen come in and not hit the ground running.
The only one that I
times.
think of that had a impact as a freshman is Leonard Williams, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of what you want from Jakeem Stewart.
Everson Griffin.
Yeah, but okay, now we're going back a decade, beyond a decade. So it's been a while, but yeah, I think when you recruit a guy like Jakeem Stewart, you want Leonard Williams from him. I mean, not one for one, because I don't think that they're exactly the exact comparisons, but certainly in terms of impact from day one, be a high level starter immediately. Like, that is the dream for Jakeem Stewart.
Yeah.
I think it complicates everything for USC a little bit because I don't know what the future holds for like Devin Tompkins, and I don't know exactly how they want to deploy Jamal Jarrett and Keyshawn Silver. I don't know if they want to have both of those guys on the field at the same time. I think it would be fun personally, but I don't know if that's what they want to do. I don't know where they want to put Jakeem Stewart. Do they want to put him, is he playing Devin Tompkins' role? Do they feel comfortable having him out on the edge? I don't know how they want to do that, but if he is commanding playing time and reps, then it's going to be super interesting to see where he ends up. And if he is doing that, then it will have a ripple effect for the other guys, on that front. So it's super exciting if he comes in and is that guy.
Joe in the chat says that Silver and Jarrett should free up the edges.
That's the hope, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Ron Murray says that Stewart might end up starting because we don't have enough good players. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because Devin Tompkins, not to besmirch Devin Tompkins, but Devin Tompkins doesn't have the same, say, name cachet as Jakeem Stewart or even an Anthony Lucas, who came in with, much ballyhooed from his recruiting standpoint. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how the D line goes.
I'm trying to think of a comparison for Devin Tompkins. Devin Tompkins is like he's that guy who is really, works hard, does the job, stands in there for you and fills the role and it's super admirable and he does a good job, but he's not a superstar, to be sure.
Yeah.
He's not a, like, I would say, and I don't mean this to be mean or to trash him or anything, because I actually really like Devin Tompkins. I think if he was a depth piece, he would be an incredible depth piece. But that's the whole point. I don't think he's like an all Big Ten level player. And USC needs to find all Big Ten level players on defense. I can envision a world where Cam Fountain is that. Yeah. I can cross my fingers and hope that one of Jamal Jarrett or Keyshawn Silver is capable of being in that mold. I do not think Devin Tompkins is that guy. I do think Jakeem Stewart, if he lives up to his potential, is that guy. And that's sort of what USC needs. USC needs more, and that's what USC's been lacking in their front seven, frankly, with the exception of Eric Gentry. A star, like a superstar, a game changer, one of those guys that just is that an opposing offense has to like scheme around.
Yeah, a dude with the star under his feet.
That's exactly it. Yes, a dude with a star under his feet.
Yeah. All right. We don't know exactly when spring camp started March 19th last year, so we'll see how it goes this year. Let's get to the mailbag, shall we?
You've got mail.
All right, Alicia, we got to start with a review that we got over on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate all our reviews, especially this 5-star that we got from Golf Deadson III. Mark and Ashley are great. Big fan of Matt's food takes, but April needs to stop talking about Merseyside Red FC so much. Otherwise, they do a good job. Love to see their cats on the YouTube version of the pod. Yeah.
Mark and Ashley. I don't think I'm an Ashley or an April.
Could you be a September?
I am a September, so.
You ever think about, like, why is it that April, May, and June are names, but no other month?
January, isn't there an actress named January Jones? I don't know if that's her actual name, but.
You ever met December Dupree? I don't think that person exists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, January Jones. I think that is her given name.
August, I guess, is
certainly never
a name.
met a February.
No.
March, no.
Hey, what's your name? February Jenkins. Yeah, just not a thing. But anyways, April, I think you do a good job on this pod, and everyone loves the Matt food takes, of course, surely. But thank you to Rolf Livingston IV for the 5-star review. We appreciate and we appreciate all our reviews, especially these, because blame Matt for the bad food takes. And I was going to mention this at the end, but since food takes came up in this review, I got to mention it really quick. Alicia, you told me that your strongest food take you've decided.
I was about to ask if it's time for me to break out, and I think I've said this before, so it's not like news.
I skated it over on the blue skies.
We're getting ready. We have a work meetup event, whatever, coming up soon, and so I'm sort of getting ready in my headspace to prepare those, little nuggets about yourself kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to think of what my biggest food take is, what my hottest food take is, because we have somebody that works in our company who doesn't like cheese, and that is a talking point every time that we do.
Can't trust a person who doesn't like cheese.
Cannot trust a person that doesn't like cheese.
Unless it's some health reason.
Bert is a lovely person, but he is his opinion about cheese makes me deeply distrustful. So I was thinking about it, and we were driving through McDonald's the other day, and I grabbed a McDonald's fry, and it solidified for me what my hottest, blazing hot food take is that I stand 10 toes down on.
Oh, God.
McDonald's fries are bad, and In-N-Out fries are significantly better. McDonald's fries are the worst fast food fry. Jack in the Box, way, way better.
I love Jack in the Box
Burger King,
fries.
better.
I love Burger King
Wendy's,
fries.
Better. In-N-Out, better.
I will hear you if you say that you like Jack in the Box fries better than McDonald's. That's fine. If you ask me,
it's not just about liking.
I know that's what I'm saying.
It's that they are actively bad. McDonald's fries are bad.
I think that if you said you preferred one or the other, that'd be one thing.
No, they're bad.
But for you to say that they are bad and simultaneously,
I like In-N-Out
that
fries.
In-N-Out fries are good, unhinged, just insane, absolutely batshit, crazy, crazier than anything I've ever said on this pod.
10 toes down, man. I will die on this hill.
Insane.
If you have fries,
psychotic.
So here's the thing that tips you off. People say, "Oh, McDonald's fries, you just need to make sure that they're fresh." If you need those fries to have come right out of the thing,
hold on. You are not about to make the conditional argument about McDonald's fries when In-N-Out fries are the king of the conditional argument. Well, you gotta get them. Fried well.
No,
you gotta put them with animal sauce.
No.
You gotta get them animal sauce. You gotta get them with cheese on it.
Hold on. You are the one who orders for me at In-N-Out. Do I get them well done? Do I get them with cheese or animal style?
No, but I
get them straight up plain, and I love them.
I'm saying the main argument for In-N-Out fries is you got to do all this special shit to it.
All I'm saying is that every time I say that McDonald's fries are bad, everyone's like, well, yeah, they just need to be fresh. Well, then they're not good. Cam in the chat gets it.
When I was a kid.
Cam in the chat
When I
gets
was a
it.
kid.
You're living on nostalgia, people. Wake up.
When I was a kid, if we went to In-N-Out, we'd go to In-N-Out for burgers and then drive through McDonald's for fries on the way home. Like a sane person. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, let's get to the other stuff. We got a YouTube comment, long one from Matthew. Very optimistic about the chemistry of the great Trojan triumvirate, about how the chemistry of the great Trojan triumvirate will work out because of how well it worked out for the defensive staff. My most common conversation I was having last year was worrying about how many chefs would function in one kitchen. We're only 1 year in this defensive staff, so it wouldn't be surprising to have a polar opposite opinion from 2 years from now, but I am still amazed at our motley crew. Number one, the youngest and seemingly least experienced guy is on top as our defensive coordinator. Number two, the guy who recently won a Super Bowl with a Hall of Fame player under his wing came to fill the same position for us. Yes, going from a Super Bowl champ to a team filling in the same position at USC is a lateral move. Number three, the guy who has won multiple national championships as a coordinator and head coach just to become coach linebackers. After he takes another head coaching job, we will place him with someone in the NFL, meaning Rob Ryan. I think you could. Are you conflating both Ryan brothers?
You're getting one
so.
of the.
Rob Ryan has won a Super Bowl, but not as a head.
Not as a head coach. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's been a head coach.
No, he's only been. He's been one of those like lifelong defensive coordinators.
Yeah, it's the foot Ryan. The foot fetish Ryan, that's the other one. And number four, the guy who seemingly is the least deserving to hold on to the defensive coordinator position was only so because he just got fired from being a DC at a Power 5 school the season before. I think that's Belk,
yes,
right?
Doug Belk.
I think / hope Coach Riley's ability to to manage the staff is one of his best qualities, one that he will need to have if he's going to retain his reputation at the top of the echelon of college football coaches. He has always been famously loyal to the people around him. It just might be that same quality that tortured us with Alex Grinch for 2 years that is going to allow us to piece together a seemingly overqualified staff and make it work. Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of points. Like, the staff is overqualified. Like, if you were going to put together a defensive coaching staff, regardless of who your head coach was, and you didn't know how many wins you had in the last couple of seasons and all that stuff, you'd feel good about it, right?
Yeah. No, I think this is all great points that Riley has done a really good job of managing the people who work with and around him. Maybe to his detriment, because like Matthew said, he's maybe a little bit too loyal, but guys who inspire that kind of loyalty, I think that helps with the trust that you're able to build within a coaching staff. So it's sort of a double-edged sword if the people that you're loyal to aren't good at their jobs. But right now, I think that we can look at the staff and feel like, generally everybody's good at their jobs.
These are the guys you should be loyal to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels like USC's put together a good group, and so it comes down to how good is Chad Bowden at playing with others. How good is Jen Cohen at playing with others? Thus far, I think that Jen Cohen, I would hope. I don't know the intricacies of their relationship, but I would hope that Jen Cohen has earned a lot of trust from Lincoln Riley simply because of what she's gone out of her way to do to make sure that Riley is given an opportunity to get this right. So I do think all of these people can work together and it can work beautifully. And if USC goes on to win things, it will simply be because this triumvirate works.
Yeah.
We'll see, of course. But
as far as Jen Cohen goes, I don't think there's any evidence to say that she doesn't work well with others.
No. She's extremely well respected across the board. People who work with her love her. People who've worked around her love her.
Yeah, and the Chad Bowden stuff, rave reviews from the people that he's worked with. So, I think that bodes well for him too. All right, email from Tony in Denora, PA. Michael, Alicia, this is Tony from Denora, PA. Hey, I just want to let you guys know I'm still watching or listening, but don't like to email or call if I don't have something good to say. which is probably good because this email is going to be about good things. This is the most confidence I have in this program since the Pete Carroll days. Jen Cohen is doing an outstanding job of getting all the right people in position to move this program to the next level. We have the administration, the coaching staff that I think can compete with the other universities. March Madness is here. I'm looking forward to Juju and SC make a long run in the NCAA tournament. This team has the talent to win it all. I can't say the same for my UNLV Running Rebels. We must win the Mountain West tournament to qualify for the NCAAs. I became a fan in 1977, and it was a great 17-year run under Tark the Shark, Tarkanian, where we were competitive and at least getting to the Sweet 16 every year before finishing it off in 91 by whipping Duke by the largest margin in championship game history. These last 20 years have been mediocre at best, but they're still my boys. Fight on. Thanks for the email, Tony. First of all, let's go back to the thing about most confidence in Pete Carroll. I have 3 thoughts. A, I totally understand why you would have confidence in the structure, the foundation that is being put forward, for all the reasons we just talked about with the comment from Matthew, right? Like a solid GM, an AD that there's nothing negative to say about, a coaching staff, especially on defense, that is overqualified, all those things. It makes a ton of sense to have a lot of confidence in the off-field stuff. It's about getting to the on-field stuff, right? I just find this funny for 2 things. And this isn't I'm not laughing at Tony here. I find it funny that SC is in this position where we can feel confident about where SC is in because, A, this is what SC does every single year we've talked about. Like, end of the season, middle of the season, pessimism everywhere. Negativity everywhere. Not feeling good. No reason to buy in. Especially, last year they lose to Maryland. They lose to Washington. Completely, wipe away all the thoughts that they had from being actually close by, playing good against the good teams when they lose against the teams that they should have beaten. And SC does the thing where they just completely turn around and go in the offseason and you're all bought in again. It's hilarious. It's hilarious that SC is constantly in this position, which I think is a sign to making good decisions over and over again in the offseason of late. But also, you've got to then take those good decisions in the offseason and move them on to the in-season stuff and get the wins to sort of back it up, because you're ultimately going to be, judged by the wins and losses. And then the flip side of this is, we got a comment over in the chat. Where is it? Where is it? Well, first of all, Grant says, might be temporary, but no one can kill my current excitement about the direction of this football program. We're absolutely killing it right now. Fine on everyone. So, see, Tony's not alone. Like, there's a lot of Matthew, the YouTube comment we got just before this, super, super pumped up for this. But there was a comment. Where is it? There was a comment in here that was talking about everything that was like very, for lack of a better way to put it, gloom and doom, which I hate that phrase.
Was that from Sagar earlier?
Yeah. SC will be 8-5 next. SC will be 8-5 next year. Then what happens? Yeah, and he says, I'm not sold on any of this. Big money. Let's see big wins, bro. I totally understand that sentiment too. Like, all these things can exist at this moment. It's just a matter of like riding the wave of the positivity and riding the wave of the successes in the off season to actually paying it off when the season happens.
That's the trick. This is every year we go through this, and I think every year gives you reason for optimism and pessimism. And I've always referred to myself as a pessimistic optimist, because I'm an optimist at heart. Like, I buy in.
Pessimistic
every year.
Alicia is out in full force.
I actually think this is a case of optimistic Alicia. I buy in every offseason, and I have to remind myself, like, I have to temper my expectations, because the pessimism that's been born of so many disappointments sort of is lingering there. But I remain an optimist at heart, and so I think that every USC fan will simply just come into all of this with they'll see the glass and they'll decide it's half full or half empty until USC starts to add water to that glass and makes it, makes the program believe again. You know, there was a time in the Pete Carroll era, like circa, 2007, 2008, where I went into every season thinking that USC would dominate, and they more or less were right around there. I want that feeling back. Like, I want that sense
they weren't
of
playing unranked teams on the road.
Well, I mean, again, Pac-12 home
In
road opener.
Late September.
Yeah. But that was always really reliable. Like, I always saw that coming, right? So,
Never go to Corvallis.
So for what it's worth. But it's just the kind of thing where I want to feel confident that the people that are running the program know what they're doing and are worthy of my trust and worthy of my optimism.
Yeah.
And it's, I thought hiring Lincoln Riley would get us there, and then we've had more setbacks. Now USC has again made the correct hires, the right hires, got everyone excited about. Will there be more setbacks? There could be. Could this be the breakthrough moment? Could this be where everything starts to come together? Could be. We'll find out. And hopefully not September. Hopefully we'll find out like in October or November that right. Things are actually for real.
Yeah. You'd hope to find out soon. Cam in the chat says, looking forward to starting 6-0. We talked about it when we went over the schedule, a little while ago, that like the schedule sets up to potentially go 6-0. SC went 6-0 in 2022. Were they 5-0? Might have been 5-0. 6-0 in 2023, and both those seasons went drastically different. So yeah, we'll see what happens when we get there. All right, email from basketball stuff really quick. Also got a question in the chat from Rowan Murray. Any predictions for the women's basketball team heading into the NCAA tournament? I'm going to call it right now. Final Four. I think that's reasonable.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah. I think that this team is talented enough, certainly, to get there. My hope is that the loss to UCLA in the Big Ten tournament is kind of one of those like spur you on kind of moments. Sure. So like, I think that this team is capable of winning a national title. This team is capable of going to a Final Four. But single elimination tournaments are tricky, The best teams don't always win them. You have to be hot at the right time, and we'll find out if this team is hot at the right time. But I think they are set up to be really damn good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, You look at the losses. They lost to Iowa on Caitlin Clark retirement night.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
They lost to Notre Dame because you, me, and Kenny were watching the game together.
Notre Dame, a team that was ranked number 1 for stretches of the season. They lost to UCLA, a team that was ranked number 1 for stretches this season too. So, like, it's not like they lost games in which they were, stumbling their toe in normal situations.
Have we compared that Caitlin Clark jersey retirement night to the red bandana game?
It's a red bandana game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You weren't winning that game.
No.
It's like SC was not winning that game at Utah when they had the two fallen
teammates
on the helmet. Like realistically, you just should have it was always going to be a loss.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Staying on basketball, USC men's team tips off in about 15 minutes, so you can finish listening to us and then go flip over and watch that.
Final Four of the CIT
for USC.
How about that?
Sure.
I don't even know who goes to the CIT. Yeah. Don't hold me to any of that. Dan says in an email. Hey, Rod, I don't watch any USC games, football, baseball, basketball, hell, or even beer pong if they are winning, and I haven't watched the game from the start out of fear I'll be messing up with SC's mojo. Am I crazy or crazy smart?
I love this.
This is the kind of wackadoodle that I like.
This is perfect sports wackadoodle psychology. Like, Dan, this makes me like you even more. Like, this is absolutely 100% crazy
Dan in
smart.
Valley Village, by the way.
Crazy smart. Crazy smart. Yeah. I don't know if I could do that personally. I would hate to not be able to turn on the game.
Can I admit something?
What?
I have watched, I believe, parts of 3 SC women's basketball games this season. 3. Real expert over here. The Notre Dame game, which they lost.
Mm-hmm.
The UCLA championship game. We didn't watch that game. We didn't watch that game because we were busy on Sunday. Right?
No, it was on Saturday. I had it on.
We did have it on. You're right.
Yeah.
We did have it on. Yes.
Yeah.
We had it on. I saw that a loss, and then I saw bits and pieces of the Michigan. They beat Michigan.
Michigan State. Yeah, they beat Michigan. No, sorry, Michigan State was the men's.
Michigan.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, and they were losing that game for a long stretch.
Yeah.
So like, you could have blamed me if they would have.
I'm starting to wonder if it's you.
Look at the bright side. MLB The Show comes out tomorrow night. I won't be watching anything for the foreseeable future. Yeah.
I won't be seeing my husband for the foreseeable future is what that what that means.
Yeah. Anyways, let's dump this one and hit the showers. We'll be calling it, and we'll be back next week. Talk more USC football. Until then, we will see ya. See ya.
See ya.